as usual, we're going to have a bit of fun today, Aaron. Basically, I'm going to highlight what is different for us now that COVID is amongst us in terms of process management. I'm going to talk about what happened. I'm going to talk about 3 steps, which is you need Wi-Fi and other equipment. You need other devices. You need smiles. And this is a really good chance for us to talk about smiling and how this new environment has kind of taken away our smiles a little bit in a couple ways, very physically and just, emotionally. And then we need a cure. And I'm going to give you some, background on how to actually map up processes. And of course, we got a song, Aaron. We are dropping a video. So if anybody thinks that they're going to leave anytime before, our 45 to 50 minute mark, then you're missing out because I've got a song and a video that I dragged my daughter into that I'm going to share with you, as I usually do. And then
if it's anybody's first time, Adam is known for his songs.
All right.
So it's pretty great.
So we're going to do a song. All right, Aaron, I'll get started then. So let's get rolling. The first thing I'm going to do is talk about what's happened. And I don't need to get into a lot of detail about what's happened because you're all experiencing what's happened. COVID has changed the way that we do everything. And I'll give you a couple of examples. This stupid spiky ball that you see all over the place is really kind of running rampant around the world. And hopefully we got a handle on it in terms of getting the kids back to school and things like that in September. But I'll just tell you from my experience, it's pretty much changed everything. Here is my family and I going to get some ice cream to celebrate good grades after the report cards came in. And of course, we're all masked up, as all of you are as well, trying to stay safe and trying to stop, the transmission of this crazy virus. So that's something that we've all done. I don't know if all of you have kids in sports, but another thing that has really kind of jumped in here is my son's full speed ahead on his baseball team. And he's got, his masks going with all of his teammates. He plays first base, so he wears a mask the whole game. And, obviously keeping his distance. So it's definitely changed everything. And you might guess that it has also changed process improvement, the stuff that, I do at work every day. And, we've got these sticky notes and markers and things like that. So it's actually amazing how much it's really hurt the sticky note business. And that's part of the talk here today. 3M must be disappointed because I alone probably kept them in business with the amount of sticky notes that I buy. I've got a whole bunch even on my desk right here. But COVID has really kind of stopped the ability to collaborate in the way that we typically would, right? And that's what we're going to talk a little bit about. So let me actually just share with you, I shared with you personal pictures, but here are pictures of things that I've been doing for the last 20 years. I teach process mapping. I teach current state process mapping, and I'll show you what that usually looks like. That usually looks like this, all right? So I just kind of took a sample of pictures that we put out. These are from all over the place. There's some pictures on here from Carleton University, some from Canada Post, some from the City of Toronto, some from Service Nova Scotia, some from, I'm just trying to pick out who's here, York Region and Queen's University, a whole bunch of our favorite places to go. But you notice all of the collaboration. I look at pictures like this and I think to myself, how are we going to move forward with, doing this kind of work in an environment that doesn't look anything like this? These people are literally touching. They're not doing their 2-meter gap distance that we, are hoping to do in these days. So that's what it usually looks like when we do current state process mapping. How about understanding process problems, measuring and writing up charts and graphs and things like that? This is what that looks like. Again, taking a sample from pictures of groups that we've worked with over the last couple of years. And, who do we have up here? We have CPA Canada, we have York Region, we have City of Toronto, it's kind of the usual suspects are in here that we typically do work with, Queen's University. And this is how they do things like Pareto charts, importance proportions matrices. When you're trying to understand processes, again, you need to collaborate. You need a whiteboard. You need, to talk about this and to understand these things properly. And that's what we're kind of doing here. So that's not going to be easy to do going forward. Another question, similarly, how do we solve process problems? So the way that we typically do this is doing things like root cause analysis and fishbone diagrams. Again, a sample of pictures from all the organizations that we typically work with. And again, you're collaborating, they're hanging out together, they're working together, they're working on whiteboards in rooms with markers and things like this. Last one is, how do we typically do or usually do future state maps? Well, you can guess what kind of pictures I'm going to show you. The same thing applies here. This is a sample of pictures from groups that we worked with over the years doing, future state process mapping. And again, you can see how many darn sticky notes that we tend to go through in our time. So again, what do these pictures have in common? There's basically three things that these pictures have in common, and this is why I'm going to frame this for you as an improvement opportunity for you guys. We don't have to stop doing process improvement. We just have to change the way we do it, right? We can't do it in this way right now anyway. I'm sure we can eventually. Obviously, we could wear masks and do that kind of thing, but I think that there's, in the meantime, between now and when we get back to our kind of new normal, we have to change our approach. So what do these things have in common? There's three things that these things have in common. Obviously, sticky notes. That's one thing that they have in common. Another thing that they have in common is collaboration. And that cannot stop. We must collaborate. If you've ever sat through a process management course with me before, you know that I emphasize and stress the fact that this cannot be done in isolation. It cannot be done by yourself. It cannot be done with just your ideas on how to improve a process. It has to be done in collaboration with the doers and the customers within that process, the stakeholders within that process. So that's the second thing that these things have in common. And then the third thing that these things have in common are smiles. I hope you picked up on the fact that everybody had a huge smile on their face in all of those photos of process improvement work that we've done. There's often a kind of a negative connotation that's associated with process management. I don't know why that is. It never is when I do it, but typically speaking, people grunt when they hear, hey, we got to do some process mapping. We're going to do some root cause analysis. We're going to do some of this activity. And they kind of grunt. They're like, oh, really? I don't want to have to do that. But I'm going to squash that. You saw the smiles on those faces. And in fact, the research on smiling that I'm going to share with you is something that we have to tap into in the next several months, right? While we're just getting used to kind of halftime or getting back into working together with our colleagues, because smiling is super important. So I pulled some research studies on smiling and why we need to continue to smile even in these tough times with our faces covered. All right, so let's talk about these things. And of course, expenses for 3M have gone down steadily. All right, and Charlene, I think you're on the line here today. You're probably happy with my Amex bill for Excellence Canada that has gone down steadily in terms of my purchases of these things. Although to film this video that I did use a bunch of them. So we've got that going on. So those expenses have gone down. Now, expenses have gone up for other things. And that's what I want to start with in this three-step process. Is I've simplified it to being that you need Wi-Fi, but you need a few things, all right? And if you're wondering what you need, let me share that with you now. You certainly need Wi-Fi, and I say Wi-Fi in terms of an internet connection. Right now, I'm using an internet connection, obviously, as you all are, and we need that, and you need it to be pretty clean. I know sometimes you have people who are up at the cottage or something like that, or in a place that doesn't have really strong internet. And if you're trying to do some of the things that I'm suggesting that you try, you need a strong internet connection. So that's number one. And I'm going to summarize that as map with a device daily, which is a foreshadow to a song that we have coming up. But Wi-Fi is necessary. The other equipment that you need, having done this in the last 3 months, many times with different organizations, is you need some sort of collaboration software like we are using right now. We are currently using Zoom, as you know. It's not the only one out there. It's one that has been really popular in the last 4 or 5 months. I like using it. It's the one that I use mostly when I'm either delivering training or doing process documentation and root cause analysis with groups that I've been doing the last couple of months. Zoom's the one I use. We also use Microsoft Teams, as I'm sure some of you do. I know that some people on the line have access to things like WebEx and GoToMeeting. They all have their pros and cons. As I said, the one that I'm leaning towards mostly is Zoom. Microsoft Teams is also there. I put Google Hangouts here as well because I've been watching my kids, and that's how they collaborate at school with their colleagues. My daughter's in grade 9 and my son's in grade 7, and they've been doing Google Hangouts. I think the Haltern District School Board has a partnership with Google. So, they've been using that one. I haven't personally used that one, but I've used all the rest, and they're all kind of similar. They all have different functions that you can really kind of tap into when you do some of this process documentation and using process tools online. You not only need software, you also need some hardware. If you've ever sat in a room with me before where I've taught you how to map processes, you know that my go-to is software less. I always say this is where process documentation starts. It starts with one of these, and you put it on a wall and you use a marker and you move it around. Now, we don't have that luxury anymore. Now, certainly I could put a camera in front of some sort of whiteboard, or I have a closet right here that has a bunch of sticky notes on it. I could do that, and that's still doable. But if you want to do this well, you got to finally jump into some software. And I know many of you have already, and you sometimes slap my wrist for not suggesting it more, but now you have to. Things like Visio. Visio is part of the extended Microsoft suite of tools that does process mapping very well. I personally use the one on the right. It's something called Lucid Charts. Whenever I throw together a web-based process map or a web-based root cause analysis exercise, I tend to lean to the right there on Lucid Charts. It's like something you got to buy a license for. And then if you don't have either of those, which I know many of you don't, because it's hard to get approval to get special software to do this kind of thing, I can almost guarantee that you all have Excel. Excel has a draw function within its program that is pretty solid to map out processes and to do root cause analysis. And you can use little macros and you can grab little templates from the internet that will help you with it. So I would lean more towards one of the specialized programs, but if you don't have it, it doesn't slow you down. You still have Excel, you still have Word, you still have PowerPoint that you can use. Most, I'd say 99% of you have those software packages. Now, a few of you have the other ones. That's where I would lean if I were you, but generally speaking, we all have the one in the middle. You also need a decent microphone and you need a camera. A pet peeve of mine, like I'm using a Yeti mic right here. You have it here. I'll just tap it as I'm going. I have a little pea popper, shield on the top of it so that my peas don't get popped so much, because I'm doing these kinds of things at least once a week for the last 5 months. So I've invested. This thing's about $190, $179, something like that. So you can get a decent microphone for $200. I have a decent camera. I have a Logitech 1080p camera sitting on top of my screen right here. Some of them are built into the computers depending on what you have. You need that. You need one of those things. And the reason why is I think that all of us have been on Zoom calls or, team meetings in the last few months where that has not really been good. I'm going to pick on, I think a couple of the people who I'm about to talk about are on the line here today. Charlene, I'm going to call you out and I'm going to show a quick video of a meeting that we had this week. And Karen, I think you're on the line as well. You guys need new microphones, and let me share with you why, okay? So here's a little clip from a meeting that just happened a couple days ago with the Excellence Canada team. Obviously, I've cut it down for time, but here is when things go wrong.
Hey.
A whole bunch of, hold on.
Karen?
Yeah, I am right near the JW Merritt. Yeah, I was just getting I was getting a bunch of other noise. No sound? No?
Yeah, you're just still a little bit staccato. But
Still
we hear
getting
you.
other noise.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Charlene, you've been listening very patiently. Oh, there you are.
For expenses, and so hopefully that'll all be flowing back to me. We all have a picture of what stuff very closely.
And you received my report, I take. Alrighty, thank you.
No, just their their expenses and their statements right now. I've got the.
All right, there we go. Let me just get my screen back here.
Adam, that was funny.
Yeah, I just pulled that from the meeting that we had, Aaron, on Tuesday.
I see that.
I couldn't make out anything that Karen was saying. Now, of course, Karen was on vacation up at a cottage, so she was doing her best to join in on the meeting. And Charlene, as you can see there, is a little bit distant from her computer. So, she's it's kind of hard to make out what she's saying. Again, no specific diss to Charlene, but just using it as an example. I've been on many meetings where this has just been the case, right? You see it all the time.
Yep.
So let me get to the next bit here. I told you that smiling is really important. That's where I want to go next. I want to get into this idea of, you need smiles to support your journey going forward. And there's a lot of reasons why this should be the case. So let me share that with you now. So step 2, you need smiles. This is what work looks like now. I work in an office at home right now. This has been my surroundings for the last 5 months. I know that's not the case with all of you. Those of you who are going into work probably look a little bit like this, which is totally safe and totally necessary. I'm a huge mask advocate, and you see my son playing baseball there with his mask and things like that. You need a mask. It's the rules, right? It's the law, it's the rules, and it's also safe for us and healthy for us, and we can actually collaborate. Now, one problem with a mask is that it takes away part of our face that's really important. And I'm about to share those important details with you. It takes away our smile. So either you invest in a mask like this. I haven't seen many of these online. You know, I know I bought a few masks. I'm trying to get some cool masks. I've got a camo mask. I've got a hockey mask. I've got all these things, but I need one like this person has that shows her smile. This is actually designed for people who can't hear, right? Someone who is hearing impaired needs to be able to see lips to be able to communicate. So that's what this is for. But I thought that it would also be useful to share a smile, because smiles are really important at work. Here's one. Now, that you can't do lip reading with this one, but you know, at the very least, you could probably get a mask that has, you know, lips on it and a smile on it, as this guy does. So that's what we're hoping for. Here actually is our entire Excellence Canada team at a meeting that happened a couple of weeks ago. And you can see we're all kind of doing our best to get that ear-to-ear smile going. There's Charlene smiling, and you got Aaron, of course, and Michael and Alan and Karen and all the rest, Nikki. So we've got all these people smiling. That's what you need. And here's why you need a smile. So as I do with these excellence chats, I sift through research. That's part of my job title, is to research things. So one of the things that I researched is why we need smiles at work. And, you know, it seems super obvious, but I always think it's really interesting that people actually research this stuff in an academic fashion. So number one, smiling really makes you happier. So I've got some research that helps support that. Number two, smiling is contagious. It catches on. And, you know, in the conversations that we've been having lately about contagion and, you know, things that are contagious is bad, obviously, with a virus. This is one of those things that's not so bad. And we want to keep people smiling and keep spreading those smiles. The third thing is that smiles release chemicals in your brain that you need to, you know, feel better and work better. So endorphins, dopamine, and serotonin are released when we smile. And then the last thing is that smiling makes us more productive. So let me just kind of zoom in on these and share these studies with you a little bit. So the first one, it makes people happier. This ties in with the research that I personally did on my PhD thesis, which is all about happiness. But this one was a recent one. In 2019, the University of Tennessee produced this paper, and it says that facial expressions have a small impact on feelings. So smiling makes people happier, scowling makes people angrier, and frowning makes people sadder. So, you know, it seems pretty obvious, but just the act of moving your face actually changes your feeling and the chemistry in your brain. So get those smiles going, guys. Try and do it now. Try and get a huge ear-to-ear smile going. And that's what we need. Second thing, smiling is contagious. We all kind of know this. You just see it when you're, you know, in a room full of people and you awkwardly smile. Everybody seems to smile, right? Everybody starts to smile. Our brains are actually wired to do this. They're mirrored to mirror the behavior of others. So it primes us to smile if someone else is smiling. And what this means is that when you laugh or smile, laughing's the same. In fact, laughing is more contagious. But laughing's the same as your positivity will be reflected in the group. All right. So helping form relationships and cultivate that positivity. And that's from a study that I pulled from 2017 by Scott. So just remember that this is a contagious activity that's totally okay nowadays, all right? And we want that to continue. So this idea of smiles increasing some of the chemicals in our brains that we need to operate is really interesting. So Gutman in 2011 published this study. You'll find, just Google this one. There's a lot of pictures of people actually trying to eat 2,000 chocolate bars. But have a look at this. One smile can generate the same level of brain stimulation as 2,000 bars of chocolate. That to me kind of blew me away. So I'm never going to eat 2,000 bars of chocolate, but I can definitely get a smile out every once in a while. So it's doing the same thing for your brain as chocolate, those chocolate lovers in the group. Just picture 2,000 bars of chocolate and how much that might actually be. And lastly, the one thing is that it's not just for our brains and how we feel. It actually translates to productivity at work. So in a work context, this was one of the chapters that I wrote in my thesis as well about productivity. But I also pulled a study that was from 2010 by Price Jones, and she said this, that happiest employees were 180% more energized and 155% happier with their jobs. And this is kind of the standout sentence to me, is that they spent 80% of their work week on related tasks compared to only 40% by people who aren't as happy. So 80% of their work week was spent on tasks compared to 40. Now we're all working from home. Many of us are working from home. This is more important than usual, right? Where, you know, being on point, being on task is really important for our days and our productivity going forward. So then I thought I'd share with you 4 ways that I think you can get more smiles in this current environment. We have to wear masks when we're, you know, close to each other. So those of you who are going into the office are likely wearing masks all the time. So you can't really, you know, show the smile, but you can get those masks that have holes. You can get the, you know, the masks that have smiles penciled in. And I thought that this was interesting, that you could force it. You could try and be funny. You can use it to engage with others. And then you can, if you can't laugh at anybody else, if you're going solo today, you can at least laugh at yourself, which is always a good source for jokes and laughs. Forcing it. So amazingly, you'd think that a lot of those brain activities and things like that were only appropriate if it's a real genuine smile. It turns out it's not. Faking a smile can increase your happiness feelings as well. And the first step to being happier is smiling, even if you don't feel like it. You know, imagine if you're having a bad week, say, you know, someone close to you is sick or something like that. Smiling can actually help a little bit in terms of your brain chemistry. So it's a first step anyway. Be humorous. So find humor. Watch something funny. I pretty much finished Netflix at this point. There's not much on there that I haven't seen, but you know, anything that's funny, I try and tap into. Find humor in something. So for me, in a work environment, that's about anecdotes, observations, personal stories, analogies, quotes. And the key thing here is that there's a big difference between being humorous and being funny. All right. Chris Rock is funny. I'm not funny. My wife tells me all the time that I'm not funny, but I think I'm humorous. I think I can, you know, save myself in that regard. I think I can be humorous, and that's with anecdotes, you know, these stupid songs that I'll play for you at the end of today. I try and be funny in those, and that's just a way to find humor and not funniness. Like, I'm not going to go and do a stand-up bit like Chris Rock or Amy Schumer or something like that, but I certainly can, you know, tap into the humor of things all the time, and I think that's what I try and do. Here's where we can engage with others, socializing. So since smiling is contagious, you need to get together with people, even if it's in a virtual environment, and take advantage of your virtual groups and that time to socialize you can work with. And then again, this idea of laughing at yourself. So put the mirror in front of you and laugh at yourself. You know, maybe find things that, you know, are a little funny, like it's the song I'm about to play for you it has some high notes in it, right? And obviously I'm not a singer, you know, you'll see that, but I go for it because I'm just trying to laugh at myself. And, you know, life is really about how you approach things. So even if you're having hard times, look for the humor in things and try and laugh at yourself. Like, my hair is going a little wild lately and I laugh at that. You know, all these things that you're trying to, you know, that you're noticing, you can actually have a laugh about for sure. So here's what that looks like at Excellence Canada. Again, our entire team, we did this a few weeks ago now, where we had a little social hour where we all had our favorite beverage. So whether that's juice, milk, beer, or wine, and you know, just trying to get those smiles going, because I've already illustrated the importance of smiling. You need to keep those smiles going. And I'm going to smile even though my favorite team is out of the playoffs. All right. My beloved Toronto Maple Leafs having the biggest epic comeback in the history of hockey, and the very next you know, game losing it all. So too soon. I can't talk about it. It's too soon. It's too soon. Okay. Last thing I'm going to talk about today is this idea of the cure. And we need a cure. All right. So I have a cure for you going forward that I want you to start practicing. And if you've done a process management course with me before, you already know elements of this cure. If you haven't, I'm going to give you the highlight reel of some of the things that you need to do in the coming months to help improve processes going forward. So we need a cure. And in the context of COVID, that's obviously in the form of a vaccine or something like that. I know we're all kind of racing for a vaccine. I know that Russia announced that they have a vaccine this week, and I can't wait till Canada comes up with theirs, and I'd be the first in line to grab the one, and keep families safe and test this stuff out. But we definitely need a vaccine like this girl's getting here. So in terms of process management, it's not exactly a vaccine, but it is a cure. And if you haven't guessed yet, CURE is an acronym. CURE is an acronym for current state, understand, root cause, and end game. I've simplified something that's often a little bit more complex. When we're in person, we have more time, more minutes, more hours in our day to actually work on this kind of stuff. Since we are limited in this functionality of our Zoom capability, and the time frame that we have people's attention is lower, I've simplified it and cut it down to 4 steps: current state, understand, root cause, and end game. So let me show you what that looks like. And I've got examples of all of these things happening virtually that I've got as little video clips that I want to share with you. So let me do that with you now. Okay, so current state. So let me give you the highlight reel. We're basically talking about inputs to output conversion. That's the simplest way to think about any process that you work in. A process is a series of steps which transforms an input to an output. An input is from that supplier, an output is to a customer. The example that I share in the current state process mapping training course is this idea of a chicken factory, right? Specifically Cargill value-added meats, and they make chicken McNuggets in London, Ontario. The inputs are whole chickens, the outputs are chicken McNuggets. Again, that kind of extreme conversion is the most obvious example that I've ever come across. They won the Canada Award for Excellence a few years ago, and I was the lead on the verification that happened at Cargill. And that is one sole supplier factory for all of the chicken McNuggets that you ever eaten in Canada, comes from London, Ontario, from a place called Cargill Value Added Meats. That input to out conversion is kind of the fundamental mindset for any process documentation. A second thing is this idea of trees, all right? So when you're mapping a current state process, there's a whole bunch of different things to think about. By the way, this picture is taken in London, England. I was doing my PhD in Bristol, and we drove over to London to a music festival that my cousins were working at. And this Hershey's Kiss shaped tree was in the background. And I thought, hey, I got to take a picture of it. So this tree kind of represents process mapping in a way. And let me explain how. There are 3 levels of trees or maps if we're doing it. The first level is what we call a level 1 process map. And that's what we refer to as the forest map. And that forest map is the process at its highest possible level. So think about when you're on top in an airplane on top of a mountain looking down at a forest. It looks very different than when you're standing on the ground floor of a forest, right? So when you're looking down on a forest, it's level 1. And that's 5 to 7 steps, which translates that input to output, like a little bit more detail than that little map that I just showed you. Level 2 is probably my favorite kind of map. Are the trees within that forest. And that's why I refer to this as a tree concept, right? So trees within the forest. Think about a forest when you're standing on the ground floor. The trees look a lot different if you're there compared to, the forest when you're looking at it from afar. When you're looking at it up close, it looks different. You see that there's bark. You see that there's, branches. You see that there's different things on this tree. If I stuck my head inside this Hershey's Kiss tree, I wouldn't want to do that. I'm sure there's some animals living in there, but, it would look a lot different because you see the makeup of that tree, and there's a lot more detail there for sure. And then there's a third level and final level, and it's the roots on those trees in that forest. So the level 1 map talks about the what scenario. The level 2 map is a cross-functional map, and it talks about the who does what scenario. And then the level 3 map, which is transactional, talks about the how. And those are the 3 levels of process mapping that you need to kind of understand to separate all the detail that exists. And we typically do that with sticky notes, obviously, but we are doing it differently now. If you haven't seen a map like this in a while before, here's the simplest one that I can share with you. You enter the kitchen, you ask yourself, are you hungry? If you're not hungry, you say, yes, I am, and I'm gonna have some cake, okay? Are you hungry? Yeah, I'm hungry. Okay, second question, and this of course is a decision diamond. We have different symbols in process mapping, as many of you know. Do you want to eat healthy? If the answer to that is no, boom, I go to cake. If the answer to that is yes, I do want to eat healthy, of course you don't want to eat healthy and you want to eat cake. Basically, all signs point to cake is what we're hoping for here. And it happens to be my daughter's birthday next week, so I pulled these pictures of birthday cakes that my son and daughter have had over the years. And again, too soon on the Toronto Maple Leafs, so no comments in the chat about the Leafs. But that's my son's cake from when he was 7, and this is my daughter's cake when she was 12. My daughter is turning 15 next week, so we'll have a nice cake to kind of to jump into. So that's going to be awesome. But yeah, so all signs point to cake in these process maps. Here is a crew from, this is actually a crew from Carleton University, an awesome group that I worked with in terms of process documenting. That's Stephanie on the right-hand side there with the red headband, you know, and the rest of them are all kind of smiling away, doing their thing. But this is from Carleton. She works at the Sprott School of Business, but they just mapped these processes together and had a fun time. I don't know why they're all bending down like that, trying to make the map visible, I guess. But that's what it looks like when you do this from, you know, in a classroom setting. But I did a session with Canada Post over the last few months, and they did some virtual process documentation. So I'll show you what it looks like when you actually map processes virtually. Here's the demo from Canada Post. This is usually your best tool for doing the things that we're going to do using the whiteboard function within Zoom.
Are you going to make fun of our boxes, Adam?
You should see what some people do with the sticky notes. So you guys are way ahead of the game here. Now for level 2, put your who's on the left and describe the what's on the right. But that looks good. I like your level 1. I think you kind of hit the mark there.
So yes, and then this is a yes, and that's a no?
Yeah. Yeah.
I like what I'm seeing here, guys. Nice job. Nice job.
Okay, so yeah, so less than 1,000.
I like what I'm seeing here, guys.
He can approve, most probably. Approval of director.
Yeah. And then it goes to accounting if yes.
Accounting checks the in bin.
I think that would be a level 3 process, the checking the bin twice. I could be wrong.
Agreed. I agree.
If it is a no, it goes back to the director.
And this one here, we'll do a connector. Let's go fancy here. Just a background, I'm a CGA level 4, and I don't want to include all the details there.
I got you.
All right.
Okay.
I think that's pretty good, guys.
Yep. Yeah, receives check.
Could be getting paid.
Yeah.
Receives cash. Yeah.
There you go. That's all you
dollar
need.
signs. I like that.
Here's what mine actually look like. Now, Melissa, mine have straight lines and straight arrows. I don't know what was missing with yours.
I'm working from home, you know.
I'm just joking, of course. All right, so there's a quick demo for you of how to actually map processes. Real shout out and thanks to Canada Post for you know, going through. That was our first virtual cohort of our process management certificate program, and it went perfectly. The feedback was phenomenal, and we scheduled a couple more for the fall. I cut up those sessions just so I could show other people what it's like to actually collaborate and smile, right? So we didn't use many sticky notes. We used software instead, but we still smiled and we still collaborated. That's the key to this, right? You need the smiles and you need the collaboration. So those are the 2 things you're looking for. Let me share with you the other elements of CURE. Understand is the second element of CURE. And let me just go through that briefly with you. That once you have a process map like the ones that you just saw in that video, the next step is to understand it, right? And to measure it, essentially. So you got to get your measuring tapes out, and you've got to figure out what the numbers look like. And you can do that electronically as well. So let me just give you a summary. If you've never taken any courses on this before, here's the highlight reel. When you're measuring a process, there's basically 4 things that you're interested in. You're interested in time. That's number 1, okay? So how long something takes. Is it taking hours? Is it taking months? Is it taking days? Is it taking weeks? Measure that in some way. And depending on the process, sometimes it's minutes, sometimes it's seconds even. And you can measure that using any form of time. And just tracking that over time on a check sheet, or if it's a lot of numbers, then some sort of system calculates that time. And that's number 1. Number 2, volume. All right. Thank you to my daughter for helping me out with all of these little pictures. Volume is when you count things. All right. So in this case, she's counting things. So number of visitors, number of students, number of residents, number of whatever. Number of anything is a volume measure that you can actually track and measure over time. And it's sometimes something that we want to either increase or decrease depending on the context, right? So we're trying to reduce a number, we're trying to increase a number depending on what we're up to. And that's a volume measure. So that's number 2. There's 2 other measures that we have here. There is the measure of cost, all right? Kind of an obvious one for a lot of the organizations on the line is you need to count not just volume, but you need to count numbers, dollars. And in this case, we've got, you know, $100 here. But when it comes to cost, or if you're in a private sector organization with a profit center, then profit and revenue is also a number that we can count and keep track of. Again, sometimes we want the number to go down in terms of cost, and sometimes we want the number to go up in terms of revenue or profit. So we're tracking that over time. And another thing we measure, the last thing that we measure, maybe the most important, is the idea of quality, and that ties to satisfaction, engagement, all of the rest, internal and external. My favorite restaurant, I haven't been to the States in 6 months, but when I'm in the West Coast of the States, I always go to In-N-Out Burger. In-N-Out Burger is my favorite. And they have this slogan that is quality that you can taste. And here is my family and I when we were in, where was this? This was in Texas when we were there I was speaking at a conference, and we were down in the south of the United States. Of course, I'm wearing my We the North, Let's Go Raptors shirt. But quality is the fourth form of measurement. So those are the four things: time, volume, cost, and quality. And then derivatives of all of those kind of fall into play for process management. So the question that you're trying to understand is, I get presented with spreadsheets like this all the time. And people say, here, there's the data. I'm like, oh no, that's nothing. I got to understand it. I got to actually dig into it. I got to tell stories with it. And that's what I'm asking you to do in this understand piece of Cure. You need to do Pareto charts. You need to do importance performance matrices. You need to do bar charts. You need to do scatter diagrams. You need to do run charts. And depending on the data set, you need to find the stories. And we have to figure out what stories are emerging from our measures. And that's what we're hoping for here. And here's a crew. This is from, this is York Region. There's Allison down low there with the flower on her shirt. And they're doing a Pareto chart in the background here about, of course, their team awesome there. Let me show you what this looks like thanks to Canada Post's little video and how they collaborated, showing a little video clip of them doing some measurement and understanding. That's the sham. You're in a very fancy office there.
Yeah. Or cafeteria, maybe.
It's just
one of those fancy backgrounds.
Yeah, exactly. Let's start with the most probably the importance express claim process.
Use a scatter. That's how you're going to have to do it. You have to use a scatter.
Exactly. Scatter, okay.
I pick my data and then just insert.
Wow.
I cheated.
You are wicked awesome.
Yeah.
You're quick, man. So where did you get the percentages from? You just took the 100 or 39. Yeah, okay, I see you did. You just create a formula.
Who's the charting all-star here?
Well, Fredo's wicked awesome.
I try.
Good job, buddy.
Yeah,
I need to brush up on my Excel skills, man. Okay, what else we got here?
Grab it by the one down and the words as well. So now you're halfway done. Boom, that'll do it. That's a cumulative percentage. There it is. That's it. That's beautiful. Andrew, if that was your first time, congratulations, man.
Thanks. But to actually remind me of my stats courses from university. Thanks for the refresher.
So I now have, this is my importance data, and this is my performance data. It's right here. Grab all of this data, and I go to Insert, Scatter Diagram. Second option that it gives you is exactly the scatter that I need. This is the one right here. So I select that one. This one here is my magic number, and it's timeliness. And you can always call S the sham. He's
already dealt with that.
All right, there we go. Thanks again to Canada Post for doing such an awesome session. But you can see how they're collaborating and smiling. That's the important elements that we're trying to recreate of all the time that we do this kind of work in person. All right, next element of Cure. Let's do it, and it's root cause analysis. So once you start learning about the stories that are emerging from your data, you need to understand that some of those stories are going to point to gaps and problems, and that's why this little chalkboard has some barbed wire around it, because those are the things that you need to dig deeper on. So that's essentially what the secret to root cause analysis is. Here's a picture of my son when we went the last time we were at a beach vacation, when we were snorkeling. You see all the fish in the background there. You need to get pretty deep to see those cute fish, right? And that's essentially what this is about, is going deep. And if you've done some root cause analysis before, you need to go at least 5 Ys deep, all right? And that's kind of the sequence here, is you got to go deeper into that problem, because you want to get away from the peripheral causes and down to the root cause. So you're trying to get to the system, not the peripheral causes. And that's what we're looking for in a 5Y analysis. And here's what that looks like. I got a bunch of pictures of people doing root cause analysis using fishbone diagrams with, the 6 bones that exist for a fishbone diagram. I'll zoom in on one of these just to show you what it looks like. Yeah, this one's from Queen's University. You see Dawn in the background there. But this crew is just so keen on figuring out how to solve their problem, which was they're getting too many open requests that are past 10 days, and they want to understand why. So they did a little bit of a root cause to understand why that is. Now, I don't know why they're so excited about this particular scene, but here we go. I've got this virtually, as I've shown you. I'll show you an example of this virtually for every element of cure. Here we go. This is Canada Post doing their cure thing. Magic question. Why am I late for work? All right.
Alarm clock.
I work with people like that.
Michelle, what you said here is a typical one. So not getting up early enough. And then someone said alarm clock, right? Yeah. So I'm going to throw that in here too.
Do you have to drop off your kids?
Thank you for that. You're feeding me excuses.
Taking
Kids are
note.
taking too long. I'm going to blame it on the kids.
Go train reliability.
Can we be ridiculous? Like
Yeah. Go for it. Let's have fun with it.
This Adam guy just doesn't care.
Here's the funny thing. I already have this one lined up. Don't late work. And it's easy to move when you didn't write it with a marker. All right. What else do we got?
Yeah, then you just know you have 5 more minutes.
So I put that under measurement. Basing my travel time on best case scenario is basically what you're talking about. I like that. So flat
tire pressure.
We're starting to get a pretty good picture here. You start getting your favorites. You start getting the ones that are rising to the top, maybe the ones that are frequent. Those are the ones that get the 5Y treatment. All right, there's another one. So you see how we can get deep. Of course, that was a case study scenario, but there's no reason why you couldn't do the exact same thing with a real problem that your organization is facing. Just collaborate. This is one using Lucid Charts, like one of the software packages that I shared with you before. And they just, got right into it. Again, collaboration and smiles, those are the 2 things you're looking for, and we were able to do it. So the last element of cure is this idea of end game. And it's essentially getting back to the future. All right. So getting to the future, essentially. We want to go to future state, and you got to be, just like Michael J. Fox here. And that's kind of like a 3-step process here that I'll summarize for you briefly. And then I'll show you a video of Canada Post doing exactly this. But it starts with understanding your current state. So all that stuff I said about current state and the trees, you have to understand that. So you have to analyze it. There are some concepts and thoughts that can help with you. I have these things called thought starter questions, and they get your thoughts started and going on solving problems. And that's where it kind of starts, is you start with your current state. We always start with the current state, and we eventually move towards an end game or future state. Now, here's a huge concept that we need to make sure that we are implementing in our end game, is we want it to be 100% value added. That's a really tall order, but we want to reduce the non-value added. So we have to actually look for it and squash it. There's 2 kinds of non-value. There's non-value that's, waste, and then there's necessary non-value. So sometimes we have non-value that we can eliminate, but sometimes there's non-value that we can eliminate. And there's a couple of, helpful ways of thinking about this. I often kind of associate the green with the value added and the red with the non-value added. And we now can separate those 2 things. The case study that goes along with this particular training course is a Santa Claus case. That's why I use the red and the green. The last thing is that I have not seen more collaboration on any of these tools than this one. All right. So this is the one that collaboration becomes the most important. You have to confer with all of the stakeholders, all of the people involved in this process. And it requires a lot of hand holding, not physical hand holding, but conceptual hand holding. And we can do that very well using kind of the tools that I've been illustrating for you. So I told you that one involves a Santa Claus case study. Here's the last time I was in Nova Scotia. So we've got, a group working on this case study. And of course, we got a friend here acting like Santa Claus and got someone on her lap. So that's how we did it. Can't do that right now unless we're fully masked up and gloved up. But, it was a fun one to deal with. Let me show you what this one looks like at Canada Post, because that's the one I did most recently, just a couple weeks ago. Remember, they're doing a Santa Claus case study, so that's what they're talking about.
Feeling right, tired.
I think that's accurate, is it?
Now Michelle gets it. Light bulb. I'm going to draw a light bulb on my whiteboard behind me.
I like it. All right, I'm going to jump in on the other room.
Okay, so mix
Ooh, and the what?
Then send receives list.
Checks twice, child is naughty, sends lump of coal request to LOC.
Just an FYI, you guys sound completely ridiculous. I just jumped in the room here. And you guys sound like you've lost it.
There's a lot of checking here.
Yeah.
Put an arrow up and that's it, and just put a yes, throw yes somewhere.
There we go. Final list. Okay.
Although it looks a little messy, I gotta say.
Oh, you're such a.
I'm not gonna judge.
Naughty list.
Oh man.
Way to be positive, Michelle.
That's right. Silver lining. Silver lining, baby.
Yeah, he's the elf that doesn't want to be an elf. He wants to be a dentist. Just,
One row down.
Yeah, right there, right
there
there.
you go.
Right here?
Yeah.
Yep.
I had 2 daughters. I bought like 4 versions of dollhouses.
Okay.
And I played with them too.
Me too. Me too. My daughter and I played with dolls for sure.
Now it will go back to Santa and we'll finish a U, right?
All right. Nice job. Nice job. This is looking good. Well, I'm going to say it doesn't look good, but I like the words. I like the words in the boxes.
So that can be skipped because that's level 3, the parachute down.
Oh, Mohammed, you're just gonna dismiss that whole paragraph? It took me hours to write that paragraph.
That's
You're
clearly a
absolutely
level 3 paragraph.
Just skip it. Just skip it.
So unwraps gift and then what?
That's it. That's the end, right?
That's basically it. Yeah. All right. So you saw how that looks. Now, obviously, the 2 things I'm looking for is the ability to collaborate and the ability to smile. And again, we're meeting both of those requirements. So, working on a real life case would be the exact same. Keeping it light, keeping it, moving. And that's the simple cure that we're talking about. You start with current state, you understand that current state and do some analysis of that current state. And sometimes that analysis points to problems and gaps that we need to solve. And that's where you get down to the root, go down deep, go down at least 5 Ys deep and fix the root of that problem. And then when you're ready and you kind of dismantle that problem a little bit, you build another end game process or a future state process that looks a lot better as a result. And that's what we're hoping to move our way through. Again, I've simplified the process because it's not normal times. All right. We have, there's a lot of more things that you could do, but these are the things that you have to do going forward. And you need to find that vaccine essentially. All right. So that's basically all I've got for you. Aaron, we're going to drop that song now. All right. Are you ready? And then we'll do, we have a couple minutes for Q&A, but and we've got some resources there, but this song, Aaron, is makeup of Under Pressure and Ice Ice Baby. All right. I mixed the 2 together.
Of course you did.
And I got my daughter you can see on her face sometimes she doesn't want to play along, but I'm all in, obviously. And I hope it brings a smile to your face because I've already said the importance of smiles. So without further ado, I am officially dropping my video and then we'll open up for questions after. All right. Ready, Aaron?
Ready?
All right. Let's do it. New song and video dropping in 3, 2, 1. Okay, ready?
I've been ready.
You're born ready. Remember the day on the wall we play like a stickies all day. Process mapping on a wall, details big and small, sometimes on the floor. Under pressure to get the details down, spend time on level 2, people down the left. Remember the day on the walls we play together. Remember, that's okay. We can do the same thing on the World Wide Web, watching our good friends screaming you're on mute. But tomorrow, with good Wi-Fi, we met the same process with the same team. I promise you. Yo, VIP, let's kick it. Map with a device daily. Map with a device daily. All right, stop. Collaborate and listen. I am back to cure your bone of contention. Map something. It might be out of line slightly. I've seen maps on real walls that are unsightly. Will it ever stop? Yo, I don't know. Working on a cure, so let's go. Engage your team, be the wax to their candle. Get rid of doubt like the sand to a sandal. Chance you take to bring a smile to the gloom. We're finding the gaps like the sun in a sunroom. We're ready. When we use the cure recipe, expenses for 3M have gone down steadily. Let's draw up the end game, put it on display. You know we hit the bullseye, our team don't play. If there was a problem, yo, we'll solve it. Check out the plan while my team understands it. Map with a device daily. Map with a device daily. Map with a device daily. Map with a device daily.
Remember the day on the walls we play, pack of stickies all day together.
Yo man, let's get out of here. Word to your mother. All right. There we go, guys. We are done. We've got upcoming training. Just check our calendar. We run one live session a month for the entire fall. So one a month, so look for that. All the ones around process are scheduled to come up. Other things on our calendar are these excellence chats, these free chats that we do. Obviously, you know, if you've been enjoying these, please continue to enjoy them and look out for the next ones. In fact, we're doing a whole series in the fall in September where we're going to do once a week with all sorts of different speakers. All the people who are actually supposed to speak at this year's Excellence Summit, as you all know, has been postponed for this year. But we have all the speakers who are supposed to speak at that Excellence Summit are going to do Excellence Chats instead. So we've got about 8 or 9 of them lined up for the fall. So stay tuned to the calendar there. If you want to see any of these webinars that we've done, they're all recorded and they're all available on our site at the on the webinars link. And then if you want to book a course like the one that you witnessed there with Canada Post, just contact our generic email there, courses@excellence.ca, or you can go with me directly, adam@excellence.ca, or Aaron, whoever. We can get any of those things going. But that's it.
Thanks for joining us, everyone.
All right, guys, it's been fun. So remember, you need Wi-Fi, you need smiles, and you need a cure. And I'll post that song on YouTube so you can see it again. All right. Have a good one, guys. All the best. Enjoy August. See
Bye,
you
everyone.
in September. Bye-bye.